Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I am back. I took a little hiatus from live streams for a couple of weeks because I had some other stuff going on, but I'm back. Wanted to talk today a little bit about local SEO. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. So more on the marketing side of my business. And I often get business owners, like small business owners, so solopreneurs, maybe a couple person business saying like, what can we do to be found on Google? And it really depends on the industry and how much competition we're talking about. And that doesn't mean you can't be found on Google, but there's a lot that goes into local SEO. A lot of people think it's simply optimizing the website. And there's a lot that goes into a website to optimize it, but it's not just optimizing a website. There's so much more that goes into local search engine optimization. And search engine optimization is tied to your name, address, and phone number. So name, address, and phone number. And that needs to be consistent across any online platform. And that's what I tell people first is make sure, especially if I inherit a client that maybe has had other web companies work with them, or maybe they've done it themselves, whatever it is, your name, address, and phone number need to be consistent across the internet. So that's number one. But really, I want to talk about two things today on local search engine optimization, because I find that if you're a solopreneur and maybe someone that can't hire a company like mine, or doesn't even know where to start, there's some things that you can do on your website to get yourself started, because it's little changes. You don't have to do everything all at once. I mean, because ultimately that's not going to work either, right? It's little changes. So as long as you can implement things slowly, that will work. Number one is optimize for local keywords. So if you're trying to be found, like if you're a store, for example, and you want to be found in Delray Beach, well, hey, make sure Delray Beach is in your content, make sure it's in your titles on Google, make sure it's, obviously your address should be tied to Delray Beach. You see a lot of law firms, for example. I see it on law firm sites. I see it on some other sites too, but especially on law firm sites, they'll have different pages tied to different cities. So maybe they have an office in Delray Beach, but they, ultimately, if you can have virtual offices like in a couple of places, great. But if you don't have that, you can also do, pages that are tied to different cities. Now, again, that takes a little bit more effort, takes a little bit more, content creation on your part, but optimize for local keywords and look at your keywords. Like, what are people searching for your industry? There are a ton of free tools out there. Just Google keyword search tools. There's a ton of free tools out there that will allow you to search local keywords. Now, sometimes they are locked down, so maybe you only get the top 10 or something like that, because there's a ton of paid ones too. And I don't really suggest, like a solopreneur, especially if you're trying to optimize your own stuff, go in and pay for something, because sometimes they're super expensive and they're not actually worth it. And you're not going to do it to that much detail. But there are some free tools out there that you can use. So think about that and think about how you can use those tools. And then, when you're doing that, I always tell people, whether you're on WordPress or Wix or whatever platform these days, it seems like they all have the ability to update the title and the meta description. So when you're on a website, or actually say you're searching for something on Google, and you get, say spa near me. And so spas are going to come up right near me. And you're going to get, you could have the homepage of a site, you could have a contact page of a website, but more than likely, if a site's going to come up, it's not going to just say home and have like no meta description. It's going to have stuff filled in. So you can actually alter what that says online. And that's a key piece, because if you don't update your content, so if I don't update that, and say I label my pages, home, about, services, contacts, so let's just say those 4, that's how it's going to come up. It's going to say home and maybe nothing else. Maybe it'll say the name of the site. So if it's Bad Cat Media Group, it might say home, Bad Cat Media Group. And that would be about it. Well, for me, I might want it to say marketing company in Delray Beach. There's different ways I might address that. So think about what your industry is and how you can optimize. So if you have your own website, you can go in and do that. So that's one suggestion. And then also don't forget that now we have all this voice search going on. So we ask Siri for something, or we ask Alexa for something. So you want to also...
I missed something.
Oops.
Can you say it again?
Alexa's talking to me over there. Never mind, Alexa. So we have to also optimize for some long tail keywords. So when you're, think about how you ask for things. If you're saying, hey, whoever, won't say the name right now, I need the best coffee shop near me. That's a whole lot more than like if I was typing in coffee near me. So I might type in coffee near me, but if I'm speaking, I might say best coffee shop near me. So also optimize for that, because we are in the day and age of speaking and, search via voice search. And then the second thing I want to touch on today, which is not that hard to do, but people don't even know it exists, is there's something called a local business schema markup. So Google that sometime. And with that, you can go in. There's some plugins that you can add, like on WordPress, for example, there's some plugins. So this is stuff that appears kind of on the back end of the site, meaning like a site, something that you're not going to see on the front end. So if I was looking at Bad Cat Media Group, I'm not going to see it, but Google can see something. And so that can also help you. Again, you need an address to do this. So an address is super important in local SEO. So if you want to be found locally, make sure you have an address. So if you're working out of your home, for example, and you don't want to use your home address, which I totally understand, make sure you get a virtual address, but not a PO box, none of that, because Google really doesn't care about a PO box. But make sure you get a virtual address. I mean, there's a ton of executive office suites that offer virtual rent. And usually they're not super expensive. They're often like under $100, and they offer you, an address. You can get your mail there. And then usually they go up from there. So if you want to route phone calls through there, for example, because there's someone to answer the phone, you can do that. That's usually an extra fee. Sometimes they don't offer that, but there's other, and then sometimes conference room is included in that. So, or maybe that's a little bit extra. So you get access to a conference room that you could pay for if you need it. So use that. And then again, Google schema markup. And it's pretty easy on WordPress. It's pretty easy to add. I can't speak for the other platforms. I use those a lot less, but that can also help. So I only wanted to touch on 2 things today, because I don't want to overwhelm you if you are a solopreneur, a small business owner trying to do kind of your own local optimization. Focusing on too many things at once is just not going to work. So focus on these 2 things and really do the best on those first, and then figure out what that next step is. Because, content creation goes into local search engine optimization. There's so many more things, like directory listings go into it, backlinks to your site go into it. So there's so many more things that if you sit there and think about all those things, you're going to get overwhelmed and probably not do any of them. So start somewhere and get your site optimized again for, we talked about the schema markup, which is what we were just talking about, and then looking at local keywords and optimizing for voice search. So start there, and then I'll continue to add some other tips on local SEO on additional lives. But I just wanted to touch on 2 things today, because ultimately we have to start somewhere. So if you're going to do your own thing and you don't have the funds to hire a company like mine, which I totally understand, start there, look, really optimize your site that way, and then look for my next live, and I'll talk on the next couple of things. I hope you have a great evening. Hope you've had a great Tuesday, right? I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.